I think that it is obviously part of what we're talking about when we say we have profound disagreements with the Cuban government when we talk about democracy and human rights and support for civil society and independent actors.
That from State Department Assistant Secretary Roberta Jacobson in Havana, speaking out this week as the U.S. and Cuba take the first major steps in thawing relations between both countries, holding high-level diplomatic talks. Not everyone agrees it's a good move. Florida Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen is a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Her family fled to America from Cuba when she was just a child, and she has some definite thoughts about where we're headed as the United States tries to move forward in restoring relations with Cuba. Welcome, Congresswoman. Great to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Uma.
You know,
Pleasure.
It's very interesting that after the first round of talks were completed, that we were hearing from the officials there that there's still remains profound differences after the first round of negotiations. So it may be proving to be more difficult, perhaps, than the White House expected as it continues to move forward in restoring diplomatic relations with that nation.
Well, absolutely, Uma. You know, America's national security is at jeopardy because we see Cuba's cozy relationship with our adversaries. Right now, as those talks were going on, Russia had a spy ship docked in the harbor of Havana. That should tell you a lot about Castro's relationship, which is never-ending with Russia, with Venezuela, with Iran, with Assad in Syria, with North Korea. As a matter of fact, last year, it didn't get much attention, but Cuba was smuggling arms, including MiG fighter jets and all kinds of military hardware on a North Korea flagged vessel. And thank goodness it was caught by Panama through the Panama Canal. This was in violation of multiple United Nations resolutions. And Cuba, for that, received not even a slap in the wrist. So Cuba continues to be cozy with our adversaries. Now, I know the United States wants to be friendly with all rogue regimes, this administration anyway, but no amount of U.S. tourism or U.S. dollars is going to bring this communist dictatorship any closer to democracy, freedom, or human rights. Ain't gonna happen.
I want to put a couple of polls up on our screen for our viewers to see right now about the public's attitude about restoring diplomatic relations with Cuba. If we could take a look there from a Fox News poll. When you ask the question, U.S. lifting trade sanctions and normalizing relations with Cuba, 56% of the country approves and 33% disapproves. So this was as of January 11th and through the 13th, this poll was taken. What's your reaction to that? Because it seems to be more favorable.
Well, I think that it depends a lot on how you pose the question. If you tell the person, if you knew that Cuba was a communist tyranny that does not allow freedom of expression, that jails people because they express any opinion contrary to the regime, has only a state-controlled press, doesn't have multi-party elections, I think that then their thoughts might be different. I understand that Americans want to go for good reasons and for bad. They want cheap sex, cheap rum, cheap tobacco. But Cuba is not an amusement park. It's not an experiment for President Obama to say, hey, we've tried this, it hasn't worked. Let's try something new. There's a growing opposition movement in Cuba, and they feel very disheartened by this administration's cozying up to this totalitarian regime. All that we have said to Raul Castro is you have to free 53 political prisoners who should have never been in jail. And if that phony list, one had been freed a year ago, 5 of them have been rearrested since the December 17th Obama announcement. So Castro's not going to change. He put on his military garb after President Obama spoke, and Raul Castro spoke to the Cuban people, and he said, hey, we got our convicted spies back, one of whom was a co-conspirator in the death of American citizens. So President Obama pardoned the spies. Yes, we got Alan Gross back. We're glad about that. But the price was quite a heavy one to pay. The lesson, Uma, for these dictators is you get an American citizen, you hold them hostage illegally for 5 years, and then you get diplomatic relations, you get convicted spies back to the country.
Well, obviously, there's a long way to go between both countries in terms of making some real headway, and I know that you're going to be watching it very closely, and we'll keep close tabs as well. And I thank you so much for joining us today with your insights.
Uma, thank you so much. Very disappointed with this deal.
I understand. We'll talk to you soon. Keep us posted.